Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are after market close on Monday, September 13th. We're going to take our daily look at SoFi. And zooming in on the one-day chart today here at SoFi, we obviously see that we had down almost 2%, and it could have been much worse, right? Clearly headed into the 14s here at open, and then started to turn that around just after 10 o'clock this morning. So not so dissimilar from a pretty common sort of slingshot type pattern that you see with a lot of stocks, where they do generally the opposite of what they are then going to do within the first, say, 20, 30, 40 minutes of the market. And we've noticed SoFi doing that, several times in the past. To me, I would have to go back and look more directly. I don't know that it's so patternized that it would be tradable, but it's probably worth a look, to be honest, because some do have really strong indications of which direction they're going within the day itself, just based on that first, we'll say, hour, but sometimes even less than that, market activity. And some of them just continue their trend, and some of them sort of do this slingshot rebound and just head the other way, generally speaking. All of these sort of like vast generalizations and cheat codes fall apart at some point in time, and they certainly, well, nothing works 100% of the time, but that's another soapbox for another video. But anyway, we made this run at the VWAP and had a quick but failed reclaim, and then tried again, and then just got sucked into this generally barcoding right on the VWAP for the entire rest of the day. So nothing that interesting. It did finish a penny below the support zone that I have charted for the time being, 1502, which you see right here in blue. And that's basically where the VWAP was stuck to for most of the day. So I'm still waiting to see. Obviously, in the first hour or so of the day, I was concerned that we might be looking at having to test that 1411 support zone, which I believe is the next one down. But as you know, we didn't have to, but we'll take a look on the daily here in a second and see what we might be able to look for. But today, if it wasn't for this big unfortunate start to the day, it could have been at least sort of like a boring day. And it generally was a boring day. It's just all of this activity that stuck us within this sort of span of price action, beat us up into a position where we were going to finish red no matter what. Oh, and full disclosure, I did close out my couple of short-term call options that expire in October today, just because I was down enough on them, and I thought it was better to save that capital, though it's just a little bit of money, and put it into some other plays for the time being. So short-term, I'm certainly questioning where SoFi is going short-term. My longer term stuff I haven't touched, but just for the sake of sharing, I will share that. On the daily chart here, now there might be something else kind of developing that we could take a look at. Let's get right about here. Yeah, this is fine. So this wedge that's proved out pretty well previously is coming into play again, potentially. So we see this right here. So if we just keep it in line with where it was, this could provide sort of a stopping point, preventing it from needing this 1411 support zone. I don't know if it will, but it's something probably worth keeping an eye on, in my opinion, especially if it is feeding a broader wedge, which is what I'm wondering. We sort of have like this kind of a situation. Actually, wonder if this is probably a little bit cleaner. Yes. All right, so we're cleaner here, and this would play itself out at the November. I'm really rushing things along here. September 24th is when this wedge would bust, or the 23rd. It would likely make a move one direction or the other, unless it just wants to trade sideways along this 1502 support and resistance zone for a very long time. But obviously it's peeling away from this gap that we had placed here, and it made some nice moves coming out of a wedge previously. Now, if it would make a large move to the upside or downside this time, I don't know, but it's trapping itself in there for the moment. So we'll see if it can continue to confine the price action within this space, and if it does, we'll be looking for a big move out like we saw here. It doesn't look like a big move, but it was out over 3% and then up just a little bit the next day, but then 4.5% up the following day, which for SoFi is is about what we can hope for these days on the bullish side of things. We do see the MACD continuing to creep up generally, but it's just continuously is failing at this baseline, which we talked about on Friday, which, some folks had responded for my Friday video and said, he sounded kind of down or reluctant on SoFi in Friday's video, which actually came out Sunday. Sorry, Sunday, last night's video. And yeah, that's the case. That's why I closed out those positions today, because obviously the bullish momentum seemed like it was dying down. It had another failed attempt at the baseline, which wasn't going to take that as a great sign. And then it's starting to curl in. And also, as we've been talking about, it's the MAs, this 20, which is purple here, which is what caught support probably like to the penny here, it looks like today, but that hasn't shown a strong want or will or ability to curl up toward the 50 MA, which if it's going to really carry the price action up out of this hole that it's in, I know a lot of folks are sort of have this mental pin in $20 at this point. I see that popping up a lot, but if it's going to get there, I mean, first of all, that's a big increase, right? That's over 30% up. And it's going to need a big move for that. Now, could a wedge help provide that? Sure. Could a gap help get us there? Sure. But this gap is really getting to the point now where it's more than a month it's been here, right? This developed from the 12th to the 13th of August, and today's now closed out the 13th of September. So we did not fill the gap within a month. And that's arbitrary timeline, but this is just to say, like, eventually this will probably get filled, but I don't know that it's going to fill it because there's a gap sitting there. I mean, how long do you let it just go before you just say, okay, eventually price moves between most ranges within, the range that the price is, or sorry, the stock is trading in general speaking. But, the gap to me is sort of failing. And this 20, if it were to start curling up toward the 50, that would be a strong indication to me, maybe even regardless of what the MACD is doing at that time, because that to me was the big failure here. We just see them moving in parallel and scrunching in a little bit, but still just moving in parallel and slightly diminished retail between the two. But not really the uptick that I'd be looking for to carry this to something like $20. I feel like $20 was getting in range in any meaningfully short period of time. And this is just speaking to like shorter term swing trade positions and shorter term options like I had, that I talked about closing out. We saw a big pullout today. No large scale orders coming in and a bunch coming out. So I checked on the institutional holdings. I don't see any updates there. So I think we're just having to wait on filings to see what's going on there and see if that's really getting disrupted very much, meaning if a lot of institutions are pulling out, or if this is just continuations of folks that are, have been unlocked for a while and for whatever reason, potentially they're selling now. I don't know exactly who's accumulating these large scale orders, but we'll get more info as the days and weeks tick by. That's for sure. But this is what I'm looking at in the short term. What's happening in this wedge? Can we hold this 1502 support, or can we at least catch support here around the mid 14s and keep this uptrend going? Will this 20 MA give us the support that we need at 1465 right now? Could that just help carry us up? But again, I need to see that start curling, and then I'm starting to really question the ability of this gap to play any meaningful or useful part in any potential bullish run. I don't even know if there's going to be a bullish run at this point, but I'm going to be watching closely to see if we fall underneath this 20. Certainly if we fall out of this wedge to the downside, that would be a very bad sign. Good sign for the bears, bad sign for the bulls. And then 1411, if we have to test that, then we'll just have to see what's happening at that point. But that's what I'm looking at for the near term. If we flip over to the data, I don't think that we talked about this last week, so I'll just mention it here. We did have a hold um, coverage come in from Credit Suisse. This is on the 9th of September, and they have a target price of 16.50. So we see some of these target prices that are coming out now being a bit more in line with the reality of where the stock is trading, or this range that it seems like it wants to be trading within for this period of time, and aligning itself to that versus these high 20s and $30 price targets that we saw previously. So that's sort of interesting to see. I don't know if we'll get more coming out of there that look very different from the ones that we had early on that were, feel these days to be exceedingly high price targets from those analysts. But utilization continuing to stay down. Ortex estimating that short interest is nearly nil at this point. So again, like I've been saying, this looks to me like it was a lot of large scale orders coming out today. I think there's some macro forces at play. We talked about that in last night's video. You can go back and check that out if you want. And just overall, SoFi, since it's started trading as SoFi, well, after the first month trading as SoFi, has been under quite a bit of stress and duress from mostly lockup expirations and uncertainty around what can happen with the future of the company or the stock, at least from near term traders, it seems. Obviously, this sell-off after earnings being indicative of that. Whether you think it was justified or not, it's a market reality, so it doesn't necessarily do you a lot of good to just refuse to just say that it's stupid. That might not get you very far. But yeah, so this is what I'm looking at for the time being, and just sort of like cautiously waiting out to see what happens. But again, just to reiterate, because I know I get a lot of varying input from folks, we look at SoFi daily. I have a long-term SoFi position because I'm hopeful that the company can do what they say that they want to do. And I'm hopeful that the leadership is there and they're able to execute on these things. That will be my big question over time, and that's what will shift my price targets over time. I'm going to look at those. I'm going to revisit those again after the next earnings. Because there's also slow member growth as I see it. That's my opinion. You can see that in my earnings reaction video. I talked about that, but I'm really most interested in them going out and capturing a bunch of members and users and really boosting that. I feel like that's coming in at too much of a snail's pace. But what I was saying is I have this longer term position that I will only ditch if there's some sort of like irredeemable issue that comes up with SoFi that makes me think, okay, they can't actually create this one-stop shop, everything under one umbrella kind of company like they wanted to. And obviously I'm not at that point right now. I have a mid-range swing trade positions, if we want to consider them that, which are like I'm looking to play those out over the course of several months. And then I have short-term positions, where when I have short-term positions, then I take those as well, looking for, these slight runs up and then waiting for pullbacks and waiting for another slight run up and trying to take advantage of the in-between movements as well. And that's just because I look at the stock every single day. So when I see something that I could take short-term because of looking at it every day, then I just sort of think, well, why wouldn't I do that? If I see a potential short-term setup, I'm going to roll with it because I put the time in to look at it anyway, and might as well see how it plays out in real life. But that's just to say, yes, I'm looking at it from all angles, and I have traded or am currently trading / investing in all angles: long-term, swing trade, and short-term. And so whichever end of that spectrum you fall into, or if you fall into various buckets as well, then you'll kind of understand. But if you're just purely investing, then it might just be more annoying than anything, to be honest, to watch a daily video. So just sort of like figure out what makes sense to you and is not just more annoying than helpful. All right, folks, I hope your trading week got off to a good start, and I hope that you tuned out if you didn't want to hear that last 7-minute diatribe that I just went on. But I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.